Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. And I am with our 5 interns that spent the spring semester with me. They are from the University of Illinois, which is my alma mater. And it's been a wonderful spring semester. So we thought we'd gather and then talk about the work that we did together so you could see all the energy around supporting family caregivers. So the interns are really going to take their work out into the world. And I thought it would be great to show you the work that they did this semester. So let's start with some introductions. So they're going to tell you about their major, when they're graduating, and their plans for the summer and the fall. And Kaitlyn, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kaitlyn. I'm a senior at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I'm getting my degree in community health. And then in the summer and fall, I'm going to be going to University of Illinois, Chicago for occupational therapy.
Okay, that's awesome. Nicole, let's move to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole. I'm also a senior majoring in community health. And this summer, I will be traveling around Europe. And then in the fall, I'll be attending law school at DePaul University.
And Nicole is from Italy. So she was our international flavor, which was awesome. So it sounds like you're going to have a great summer. So think of us while you are enjoying Europe. Okay, Ruchira, let's move to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruchira. I'm a junior studying community health. I'm on my pre-med track. For the summer, I'm going back home to California and I will be doing some shadowing, some volunteering, and just some general relaxing after the stressful year. And then in the summer, I'll be back here for my final year, getting classes done.
Okay, and Meghan.
Hi, I'm Meghan. I'm a senior studying community health and graduating in May. And then this summer and next year, I'm taking a gap year before med school and working at Northwestern's School of Medicine for.
We lost you a little bit, Meghan. Could you just?
Sorry.
I know. Meghan sounded,
So sorry.
she sounded great. So it was just like the last 30 seconds.
Okay.
So tell us what you're going to do this summer.
Yes. So this summer and next year, I will be working at Northwestern Medical School for research before med school.
Okay, that's awesome. Gia.
Hi everyone, my name is Enblom. I'm getting my bachelor's in community health, and this summer I hope to do an internship in Chicago. I just need to get through some interview processes. And then in the fall, I will be getting my master's of health administration here at the U of I.
Okay, so we had a great semester. The interns completed training. So they actually completed training to become certified caregiving consultants so they can coach family caregivers as well as facilitators so they can lead support groups. And then we moved into a project where they really looked at what kind of support is available on campus. And so their research was around asking advisors how many students come to them because of caregiving situations or talk about their personal caregiving situations, and then how do the advisors support and help them. So it was fascinating to get a deeper glimpse into what happens when a student has a caregiving situation come up. Where do they go for support? So the interns have actually created a PowerPoint to walk you through the questions that they asked the advisors and the data and narrative that came out of the questions. And so Gia is going to share the PowerPoint. And then I think, Gia, you had the first questions, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Sorry, can you make me co-host again really quick?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I will make you a co-host. Okay, so Gia is going to actually drive the PowerPoint for us. And what we did is created a survey of 11 questions, and each of the interns took questions that they dug deeper into, gain some insights around. So Gia took the first 3 questions. So Gia, lead us through what you learned through the questions that you actually did some data dumping about.
So I actually did do the three first questions, but I think on our PowerPoint, we mix it up a little bit. So I think the first one is Kaitlyn, who's going to be speaking first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
So we'll be driving this PowerPoint really quick.
So one of the questions that I analyzed was, do your students share their personal life stories with you? If so, how many students are a family caregiver? So I made a little graph to show the prevalence of students who tell advisors they are family caregivers, and 38.9% said yes. They have had students come to them telling them they are caregivers. And then 22.2% said no, they've never had a student confide that information with them. And it was interesting because some advisors would say some students, so I don't know if that necessarily means yes or no, or maybe they weren't even sure how to respond to it. And that was a pretty big chunk of the data, which was 27.8%. And something that stuck out to me for this question was a lot of advisors said that grad students were caregivers, and that was 11.1%. Then the second question was, for students who are family caregivers, what kind of information do they disclose? So we gave them some prompts like the type of care, whether it's financial, physical, and also if it's more caring for parents, grandparents, or even a sibling. And I put it into a word cloud. And the bigger the word is, that means that that answer was more prevalent. So the big thing was finances. A lot of students said that it was a big financial burden for them, especially being students. So that puts more stress on them to work more hours on top of doing school and really having to budget their money. And to my surprise, a lot of the advisors said that it was caring for siblings almost as if it was their own child. And then there was some that were taking care of a grandparent or a parent. And a lot of common words were that the caregivers were anxious and stressed, and it was a constant worry. And it was just such a big responsibility for some of these students. So it was just hard for them to balance the school. And even with caregivers who cared for their siblings, they would have to take off days of school because their sibling was sick, so they had to be there for them. And then some of the recommendations after reviewing these questions were that every class should allow students at least 5 excused absences, and professors should be more lenient with student circumstances, especially if they are caring for someone. And also that the campus should pair with local mental health clinics so students have easier access to therapists. We're such a big university, and it's a struggle for a lot of students to get therapy sessions on campus just because they're understaffed and they don't have a lot of availability. The next one was to reduce the financial burden. There should be more scholarship money available for student caregivers. I have not seen any specific scholarship that's for student family caregivers, and it's clearly that there needs to be one because there are so many students who are caregivers on campus. And then also just having group therapies for student caregivers at U of I think it'd be great for socialization and just to meet people who are in similar positions as you, go to them for maybe resources or advice, and even group together to just support one another. And then lastly, I said to get rid of the policy that charges students money for signing up for classes too late, because caregivers need more of a flexible schedule. And if they decide last minute they can't take this class and need to sign up for another, they get charged for that. And on top of the finances that they already have to deal with, that can be a really big problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kaitlyn.
Okay, so I had the question, what type of resources do you and the university provide to support the student family caregivers? And some of people said like contacting the emergency dean for emergency situations. Unfortunately, there is only one or a few emergency deans at U of I, which is kind of crazy for the amount of students that we have. So that's not ideal. Then enrollment withdrawal or stepping out of campus, also very not ideal situation. Mental health resources and counseling. There's the counseling center here at U of I, which can be helpful. And then government and nonprofit resources and more resources. We also found that there are like a lot more resources for graduate students and flexibility with deadlines versus undergraduate students are really, their only option is to either like withdraw or drop a class or submit things late and get a worse grade, which is also not good. And overall, a lot of the advisors said that there is a very big lack of resources available to students. So as far as recommendations, we said making students more aware of how many emergency deans there are and how to contact them and in which situations. A lot of the deans are actually only available for specific situations. So it's important to know. And then also making students aware of how to contact the counseling center, how many sessions are available per student. It's not an unlimited resource. I believe there are only 10 sessions per student, and then you have to pay extra. So that's good to know. And then making students' resources more clear and both school related and outside related, such as the governmental and nonprofit organizations that there are available and those kind of resources. And then also creating a website or blog on how students can deal with these kind of situations and other situations of crisis. I feel like all the information is really scattered around, so it'd be good to have it all in one place. And overall insurance that withdrawing or dropping is the very last options for students. Another question I had is, how do you advertise these resources? And a lot of advisors said they share it during their one-on-one meetings or through the advising website. There's also an advising blog and a weekly newsletter, and then through emails during the orientation class that every student has to take for their college, through social media. And also a lot of advisors said that they decide to not to share it. So that's also not great. And then recommendations for this would be making a more clear list of resources again, and also ensuring that students are comfortable with sharing their personal information to advisors by establishing a closer relationship. A lot of the advisors don't even have to meet with students once a semester. They can meet with students whenever. And I think that at least meeting once a semester establishes a relationship with them. Also combining the resources into one to make it more accessible, and sharing information with students during the one-on-one meetings and sending frequent emails.
That's awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much.
So the next question that we asked advisors on campus was, how would you help a student in a caregiving crisis situation? And some of the frequent responses we got were the Student Assistance Center, the Office of Dean of Students. So I think the Student Assistance Center is underneath that. The Counseling Center was said a few times. Emergency funds was said quite a few times as well as just empathizing with their students, providing sympathy, and referring them to mental health support. Another question we asked was, in their opinion, what would student caregivers benefit the most from as a resource or opportunity? And the number one finding that we got from this question was that most would offer some kind of financial aid. As was mentioned before, finances tend to be what a lot of students provide as a caregiving method to their family. So some kind of financial break, some financial aid of some sort would be very helpful, along with academic flexibility or different class modalities. A lot of caregivers have gotten used to the way of taking classes because of the pandemic. And as a result, it's hard to make so many transitions. So offering different ways of delivering course content is really important, such as offering asynchronous options, offering classes online, posting recorded lectures, things like that. The third opportunity that advisors recommended was childcare for employees and students at income-based rates. A lot of employees and a lot of graduate students, as well as a few undergraduate students, have children, and it's really hard to take care of them while attending school or working. A comprehensive list of resources in the Chicagoland area is also something that came up. A lot of students here are from the Chicago suburbs, from Chicago itself, and most spend a lot of time in their hometowns. So a list of resources would be beneficial, as well as just knowing that the university understands and supports them, not only as students, but also in their capacities and roles as caregivers. Lastly, advisors said that they would prefer to have more mental health resources. The counseling center tends to be pretty booked, and it tends to be a little bit difficult to find an appointment. So having expanded mental health resources, just so that student caregivers know that they're not alone in their roles.
So one of my questions that I made a word cloud on is, what is your personal experience / definition of family caregiving? So for this first word cloud, I just combined what everyone said about the definition of family caregiving. So as you can see, there's a lot of responsibility in there, but there's also like other words like grandparents, because that's who they take care of, or as words like daily, because they probably do caregiving on a daily basis. There's also family and members and persons. So basically what I got from this is that it's responsible for either family or someone that they know. Another word cloud I made was for the definition of family caregiving. So there's a lot more variety of people that are in this word cloud. So you have mother, you have parent, you have friends, you have elderly, you have personal and close, because most likely you're going to be caring for someone that is close to you. You also have the word chronic. Usually when people are caregivers, they're taking care of someone that has a chronic disease. Another word that's pretty big is several, because sometimes when people are family caregivers, they have to take care of multiple people. So yeah, those are some of the highlighted words that I saw from making my word cloud. The second question that I thought was really important to emphasize was this one, and this is, in your college, is it mandatory for students to meet with you? And 72% of our responses said no. What I got from this, a lot of our responses were from the LAS college, and I know LAS is predominantly like all of the majors. It's a very large school. So the fact that one of the largest schools at the U of I don't require their students to meet with them, that could cause a lack of these students not knowing what resources are readily available. So some of the recommendations I had from these two questions is, make sure to make it required for students to meet with their advisors at least once a semester. It'll just give them a sense where their students are mentally and where they are with their schooling and if they need additional help. Another thing they could do is send out a survey regarding student caregiving. I know from my college, we get a weekly newsletter, so it'd be nice if they put that in there. And I know sometimes they have incentives like a $5 Amazon gift card. So that's something we can potentially do. Another thing I saw in some of my classes is teachers or people from RSL will make announcements. So I thought it'd be a great idea to make announcements about caregiving resources that are required in some classes before class starts. So maybe we could target this more towards the graduate classes so they know that they have those resources. And another one that I said was make student caregiving an icon on their profiles, just so we can make it known to the faculty that what position they're in and if they need additional help.
Okay, so I'm reading a bit. One of my questions is how easy do you believe access to support and counseling chart is created to be easy with a small amount saying really easy. But after discussing this with the group, we kind of like moderately easy and hard.
So we can finish up Megan's for her. She's on the train, so you could tell that there was a little bit of a Wi-Fi problem. Okay. So how easy is it to access mental health support groups if you're a student? And we've spent a lot of time talking about this. And from the student perspective, it's not easy. And it was interesting that the advisors agreed that it's only moderately easy. And one of the challenges that we uncovered is that if you're looking to schedule an appointment with a therapist, typically you're trying to schedule that appointment the day of. And so you're trying to reach out early in the morning to get an appointment. And sometimes that's just not possible. So there's a delay in receiving the support that you might need. Okay, Megan, why don't you go to the next slide? Let's see if we can get you in.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video to see if that helps the service.
Yes, great idea.
So for my 5 recommendations that I created on the was add another emergency dean who's trained how to handle student caregiver situations and has the resources available to them to help them. My second was to increase the amount of counseling available to students on campus and have at least one trained in how to handle the student caregiver situations. My third was to increase access to resources on campus by having like a central web page or something where students can go to that has the list of all the resources available to them. And then my fourth was to increase the awareness of resources available by handing out flyers, informing teachers and advisors about what they are, to kind of let just know at least what they have available to them. And then my last one was to increase the amount of night classes and allow student caregivers to have more leniency with scheduling and attendance. And I know we had a few repeats with a few other people, but yeah. And then my last question was, or do you think the way that the university handles student caregivers is effective? And if not, what changes would you recommend? I kind of pulled different words from a lot of responses, and a lot of people were just saying that they're not sure because they don't even know what the resources are. And then a lot of them felt like just the non-stereotypical student was just ignored, and everything, all the resources were basically ineffective in what they were doing. And like as you can see, the very small yes was with a few people that felt like that was handled well, but overall, a lot of advisors and counselors felt like awareness was the main thing that needed to start happening better, just because what was happening right now was overall ineffective. But, yeah.
Okay, it was fascinating to read the responses from the survey that you guys created. And I also think it was really helpful to read the stories that some of the advisors shared of their own personal caregiving experience. It was really helpful to see that so many are impacted by a caregiving experience. And it also was this recurring theme, which is there's not enough resources and support. So in response to that, you guys have created a one-page flyer with resources. And if anybody's interested in downloading it and sharing it, it's available on Caring Our Way. What else would you guys add in terms of what you found interesting or insightful from the research results?
For one of my questions, I thought it was kind of insane how a lot of students don't meet with their advisors. I personally don't think I could go through my academic career without meeting my advisor at least once in my college career. As a student, I have a lot of questions. I'm not even I'm like a student caregiver. So especially being a student caregiver, it's surprising that some students don't go to their advisors for anything. As Denise said, I also had the questions where the advisors shared their experience, and some of them got really intimate. And it was crazy seeing their experience and how it shapes them as the advisor and how they respond to the survey. I think people who were into caregiving definitely put a lot into the survey and why we were able to make such a great PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Kaitlyn.
I was just going to add, after Meghan was going through her question, just how even the advisors don't believe that we have enough supports for student caregivers, which I think is kind of awful, especially being at such a big university. And if this is affecting a good amount of the student population, then they should be advocating more to bring more awareness. And even when we were emailing advisors, we probably emailed about 100 advisors and only got 18 responses. So they weren't even very responsive of us trying to find out information and so that we could make a resource list. I thought that was very interesting.
I would also say the lack of overall like mental health resources at U of I. I think that only 10 sessions per student is kind of ridiculous, especially over the span of 4 years. And also it's really hard to get a session with a counselor here. So definitely not ideal for a lot of students. And I think this also makes students like less likely to reach out because nobody wants to wake up at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and wait for the appointments to come out.
Especially if it's just a completely frustrating experience where you get up early and you still can't get an appointment.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was the one who called McKinley and asked more in-depth questions about, do you need to be awake at 6 a.m. to have an appointment? Because one time an experience I had when I was like a sophomore, I wanted to go to the counseling center and it was really difficult to find an appointment. They told me, I remember this because I was shocked that I had to wake up around 6 a.m. to call and make an appointment because it's first come, first serve. And, you have how many 50K undergrad students and 4 therapists at the counseling center. I mean, the odds of you getting an appointment are very low. So when we called them, I kept asking, is it easy? You have to wake up at 6 a.m. Are there unlimited sessions? Because they do say there's unlimited sessions, but however, on the website, it says that they don't really do long-term service. So it was kind of a contradiction there on the phone versus what they provide on the website. I feel like the person I was talking to was kind of trying to make it seem better than it was, because when I did ask, is it easy? He was like, I wouldn't say it was easy. I would say that it was relatively straightforward. So.
Okay. So I thought this was a great research project. I thought you guys did an awesome job, and I'm really looking forward to sharing your flyer. And one of the follow-up actions for you guys is to actually send the flyer to advisors so they have it available to them. So it's not something that will just stay within us. It's something that you're going to share so that it does become a resource that is resourceful for counselors, advisors, and student family caregivers. So as we close our conversation today, I guess my last question to you guys is, what's an insight about family caregiving that you didn't have before the internship that you think you're going to take with you as you continue in the next stage of your education and career?
That's a really great question. And I think something that I've learned is that caregiving doesn't have a certain look. I think that when people think of caregivers, they think about caring for someone who's an older adult who may have some kind of cognitive impairment or some kind of physical impairment. And that's not necessarily the case. Caregivers come in all ages and all different types of care. It can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be physical help, it can be all of it. You can do caregiving from almost a long distance perspective. And I think especially my research involves integrating caregivers into healthcare teams. And I think that caregivers are such a valuable resource that isn't necessarily used in healthcare all the time. And I think care would be so much better. The quality of care would be so much better if we formally integrated caregivers into healthcare teams and really recognize them as beacons of information on their caree.
Absolutely. I thought one of the things that was so interesting about the advisors sharing their own personal stories is that it added another dimension to who they are. So your experience with your professors, for instance, is one experience, one dimension. And then to have the other side of what their personal life can be like shared is helpful. And it's also helpful for you guys too, that people see you in a multi-dimensional way, that you have family responsibilities, that it's not something that will happen later for you, it's happening for you right now. What else?
Yeah, I was going to build off of Ruchira's point, how she mentioned the long distance care. And from the survey, I got a lot of how it was difficult for them to even drive back and forth, and that they would have to go home almost every weekend. And that's just a lot on your mental too, because then it's like you're not staying in one place for a while. You always got to pack up and leave. Make sure you get everything done throughout the week so you have that time to go home and care for your caree. So I think that was very interesting. And that's just more prevalent perhaps on a college campus because students aren't right by their hometown.
Yeah, I
would
think you,
say-
oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I would say probably like the age of the careys and of like the people they're taking care of for sure, as we were discussing before, but also like how hard it is to balance like a normal life and taking care of someone, and how also easy it is to forget that you also have your own life and you can still enjoy things and you don't have to feel guilty about it.
Yeah, excellent point.
Yeah, I think after especially reading what the advisors went through during their caregiving experience, it definitely takes a special kind of human to do that and continue to do it. I remember one of the advisors, she said that she had to take care of 4 different people. Two were her parents. One was her actual parent. One was her in-law. Another one was her dear friend. And then she enclosed that they all but one passed away at the end. So it definitely takes a special kind of human to keep doing the work, even though, you see these people eventually pass away.
It's been awesome for me to work with you guys. You brought so much energy and passion to the work, and it was fun to connect with you every week. We had a meeting every Monday at 5 p.m. We talked about what we had done and where we were going, and it was awesome. So I thank you all so much for a great semester. I am so looking forward to all your success in the world. So you'll have to keep us posted on all that you achieve.
Thanks, Denise. It was a pleasure
Thank
to work with
you.
you as well.
Yes, it was great to work with all you lovely ladies and getting to know you during your 4-minute stories. You guys all have very successful futures in front of you.
Yes, thank you. I enjoyed working with everyone and learning about each other and also learning about caregiving.
Yeah,
I would-
I also really enjoyed everything. It's been a great experience and it was great getting to know you guys.
I would say a highlight was definitely when each of the interns told a 4-minute story. And then as listeners, we practiced our coaching skills that we learn in the consultant training. And the 4-minute stories were so amazing because, again, it was just getting to know each other on a deeper level and having an appreciation for challenges and overcoming challenges. It was really very special. So thanks you guys for being so vulnerable, telling your stories, and being such great listeners too. Okay, this was fun. Thanks, you guys. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. And you can go to Caring Our Way to see the PowerPoint and to see the resource list that these wonderful interns created. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.